Hello everybody, welcome back to another video where today we are back with a mod tutorial. I haven't done one of these in such a long time. And well, I haven't uploaded in 2 weeks, so I think it's time to come back. So yay, mod tutorials. Now I have seen the Windcraft video kind of just got a lot of views, so I'm guessing the Windcraft hype is back, which means I'll definitely be doing some Windcraft videos once 1.20 is actually out. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, mod tutorial. Now I have noticed that my security craft videos are one of my most popular videos actually. That's not saying much, but it is one of my most popular videos. So I guess it's time to move on to Galacticraft. Now, Galacticraft is a mod that allows you to go into space and build stuff in space and explore space, which is I can't speak. Needless to say, it is definitely a cool mod. I would highly recommend downloading it and experience it for yourself because it has so much content. It's just amazing. Anyway, this is the oxygen guide. Now, why do you need oxygen? Because you can already breathe here on Earth. Well, in space, or at least for some of the planets, you don't have oxygen there. So, you're going to need oxygen. You're going to definitely need some oxygen. And, well, we humans, we definitely need to breathe somehow. So, here's your oxygen guide. Now let's start with the simplest, the oxygen detector. Now if I go into redstone here. Now the oxygen detector is a very simple little module. It doesn't have a GUI, which is fine. All it does, if it detects oxygen, it will power a redstone signal. Since on Earth we have oxygen, it is emitting a redstone signal. Now a good use for this little module is just to power all of your lights, for example on your space station. That way you'll be warned if there's no oxygen, as the lights will turn off. So it's a handy little tool, not exactly the most useful, but it is nonetheless handy. This is the oxygen storage module. Oh, I also kind of forgot to show you the recipe. Compressed steel, oxygen vents, redstone, compressed aluminum, basic wafer. Now, you should probably look up a tutorial if you don't know how to craft these items, because they're kind of the basis of Galacticraft. So, I mean, you're definitely going to need to know how to craft these. So, do look up a tutorial on these materials. Anyways, that is the oxygen detector. This is the oxygen storage module. As the name implies, well, it stores oxygen, and that's all it does. That's all it does. So, okay, not much else to say. Very lovely. I'm just joking. Now, apparently, the little indicator that if it's full of oxygen or not is kind of broken, so that's pretty unfortunate. Now here's your little quick guide on the little wire pipe system in Galacticraft. If it's a circle connection and it's blue, then it's an oxygen vent, something, oxygen pipe, whatever. If it's square shaped, that means it's wired and electricity wired. So make sure to remember that, because don't get confused with the fluid pipes, because as you can see here, it does not, fluid pipes do not connect to powers. Wires connect to power. Same thing here. Wires do not connect with oxygen. Fluid pipes do. Now, if it's green, that means it's an entrance vent, which means if you have, say, a producer of oxygen over there and then you wire, the oxygen will be going into the vent via this vent. it will be going into this little storage module, or that's just an example. And then the red one is it's just the opposite of the green one. It allows oxygen to go back into whatever thing you need. So handy little tool. I hate creepers. And well, that's basically it. So storage module, it just holds oxygen. So if you example have a oxygen producer, just funnel it into this one, and then it will just escort oxygen to whatever you need via pipes. Okay, so this is the oxygen sealer. This is one of the most important oxygen modules in Galacticraft. And don't worry, I'll be getting to like the character stuff very soon. Just hold on a second. Oh, I almost forgot to show the crafting recipe. I'm so forgettable. Now this will need 3 heavy oxygen tanks and 6 compressed steel. Now, how you craft a heavy oxygen tank? Well, it's not that simple. So what you want to do is red wool, 10 canisters, and 3 compressed steel. 10 canisters is just a U shape of 10, obviously. And you must use red wool, and red wool only. You cannot use any other wool for the heavy oxygen tank. So you better go dye your sheeps. And I mean like the color dye, not dye. That would be slightly weird. Anyways. So that is the oxygen storage module. Erase my inventory. Now the oxygen sealer is one of the most important modules in Galacticraft. And what this does is that if you have like a room, say for example a space station, and you wanted oxygen there, but you don't want to use like the early game. Now this is the end game oxygen provider. At least that's for right now. I don't know how it's going to produce or progress later in the future. But this is the end game or slightly mid game oxygen producer. If you have a room and it's completely sealed off, no openings to like outer space and stuff, then it will seal the room, and it will basically seal the room, and then you'll have oxygen throughout the room, everywhere. It's a very useful tool. And this can also even control temperature, which is very cool. So that means you won't need to have a spacesuit when you're walking around with a sealed room with the ambient thermal controller. Now, ambient thermal controller, here is the ambient thermal controller. Now the oxygen sealer, it does require a lot of power, and obviously it also requires a lot of oxygen. So if you are early game, then hold on a second, because there's another module for early game. Now the ambient thermal controller, as I explained, it just controls the temperature, so you won't need to wear a spacesuit in space once the room is sealed. Or you could put a battery slot in the oxygen slot here to provide it with oxygen and energy, although it's not recommended. So yeah, that's basically it for this one. Now do beware, the room has to be sealed. So what I mean by that is that you cannot have any openings to outer space. It has to be, the room that you're covering, it has to be 100% sealed to any openings to the outside world. And if the room is too big, then you can always put multiple of these oxygen sealers, because if it's like a massive room, obviously one oxygen sealer is not going to be enough. You're going to need a lot more. Alright, so here is actually, okay, which one is it? Okay, so here is the early game oxygen distributor or oxygen provider. Now this also has the same thing, oxygen battery slot, oxygen slot, And what this does is that it provides, actually let me get a infinite oxygen source. Where is it? So if I put this here, as you can see, it will start making a bubble. In this bubble, you will be provided with oxygen. Given that it has enough power and it has enough oxygen, this bubble will, I'm pretty sure, has a limit. But yeah. Does it have a limit? It's still growing. Oh, this thing's massive. I'm actually not too sure if it has a limit or not, but we'll see about that one. It probably does not, but now this is a slightly tricky thing. It's still growing. How long is this going to grow? Oh boy. Oh, it finally stopped growing. It does have a limit. Okay. So if the bigger the circle gets, that means the more oxygen it's going to use. And that's pretty obvious. Now I have an infinite oxygen supply, but this is your early game little distributor. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to show the recipe for oxygen sealer. 4 compressed aluminum, 2 compressed steel, 2 oxygen vents, and 1 oxygen fan. Alright, so here's the distributor. Let's get that. Alright, 4 compressed steel, 2 oxygen vents, 2 oxygen fans, and 1 compressed aluminum. So as I was saying, the bubble, if you stand inside the bubble, you'll be provided with oxygen. And that's basically the principle of it. If you step outside the bubble, there's no oxygen. Pretty obvious fact. And yeah. Now you may be wondering, but gee, how do you collect oxygen? And that, my friends, is where you're gonna need the oxygen collector. Now for the oxygen collector, it's very simple. It collects oxygen. It's going to need a power source, obviously. And then it will start collecting oxygen from the nearby things, such as leaves. Now some tutorials, they tell you to use leaves. Place the oxygen collector near leaves and let it collect all of the juiciness from these leaves. And this works in space, by the way. So, I mean, sure, it works, but there's a much effective way. So you may have seen this in the distance or not. And now, as you can see, this is a farm. Now you may be wondering, but how is a farm going to matter here? Well, it actually is a much better way of collecting oxygen, believe it or not. So what you want to do is just place the oxygen collectors like this pattern. Always have a block right here, you know, because it needs water. The plants need water. And then use a wrench. Use a wrench. Here's the crafting recipe. 1 compressed steel, 2 compressed bronze. Use a wrench and then switch all of their green sides, or the square sides, to the middle. Or you could do it the other way around, but I like doing it in the middle. So this is the power cord. You're going to need to provide power to this, and you're going to figure that out on your own, or I could make a power guide in the future, depending on how you guys respond to this guide, because this is taking very long. Anyways, so this works in space. This design, it works in space. And what you want to do after that is just, you know, after it has power, plant, make sure it's farmland, and then just plant some wheat. Or you could plant any crop here if you want, but wheat is definitely the simplest. and this will provide a lot of oxygen. Now you don't need to have you don't need to have 12 oxygen collectors, but this is as far as the oxygen can reach. So it's about one, two, three, four. So it's about that far. So this is the design you're going to make it work, and then just funnel it into an oxygen storage module for, you know, safety, and then just funnel it into whatever you need. It's a very simple design, and it works far better than leaves. The leaves are very unreliable. Oh dear, the power just... what a shame. The power just cut off for a split second. The oxygen collectors, they're very useful. They require a lot of power though. So as you can see, this is a very effective design. I think this is one of the most effective actually. So let's go back to this one. And obviously for the distributor, you can turn off the bubble visibility. And here's the compressor recipe, collector recipe here. 3 compressed steel, 1 oxygen fan, 1 oxygen concentrator, 2 compressed aluminum, 1 oxygen vent, and 1 tin canister. Quite a hefty recipe. Oxygen compressor. Now the oxygen decompressor and the oxygen compressor are, it's not really that useful, but still kind of useful. So what you're going to need is, it's going to need oxygen. The oxygen compressor is going to need oxygen and power, but the oxygen decompressor is just going to need power. Now let's put a battery into these. And let's put a infinite oxygen supply. Oh wow, that filled up fast. Okay, so what the oxygen compressor does is that if you have a empty oxygen tank, such as this one, just put it into this and it will immediately start filling up. Now of course this is probably the only way to get filled oxygen tanks once after they're used. So I would suppose the oxygen compressor is actually useful. As you can see, the light oxygen tank is filled. And now let's go to the... Okay, so... To be honest, I'm not... Oh, I see. Okay, so this one, you can put your oxygen into the decompressor, and then it will just... you can wire a fluid pipe up to this one, and then send it off to whatever you need. The decompressor is not actually that useful. It's definitely not that useful. So you're definitely going to be using the compressor though. So yeah, that's basically it for these modules, and I will make a part 2 of this because this is taking way too long. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you find it helpful, leave a like. If you find it really helpful and want some more mod tutorials, then make sure to subscribe to my channel. Anyway, I'll see you guys in another video. Goodbye!